Today we are going to be doing paper piecing, and we're going to be making a baby quilt. The baby quilt is made up of two different patterns. One is this corner pattern, each of the outside corners, the next row corners, and the inside corners. So we have 3 rows that we're working on, and these are the corner pieces. There are 12 corner pieces in this quilt, and these stripes. 24 stripe pieces, 12 corner pieces. This, for the boy quilt, blue and bunnies, is the corner piece, and this is the stripe piece. The stripe piece is made up of 2 different sections of for the paper piecing. We will work on first this section, starting with the center triangles, and then adding the 2 outside pieces. Then separately, we work on these triangles right here, and then once they're all each sewn, then we sew them together and turn it into one piece. The corner piece, on the other hand, is simply a corner piece. Now, when I printed these out of my computer, it turns out that it fits into a larger than 8.5 by 11, because if you'll see, this is a 9.5 inch square. So 8.5 by 11, I'm about an inch short. So what I did was I printed out the piece, regular typing paper. You can buy paper piecing paper which is thinner and it's easier to tear apart once you're finished with the sewing. But I did it off of just regular printer paper, and then I took a piece of tape and I just taped it together. You can see I didn't even do that great of a job. I just taped it together, and we'll sew on that. So we've printed out the pattern. We've printed out a color template that shows you what you're going to be doing, how you're going to be putting the pieces together, what the order of the colors are. So you've got all of that information. How many stripe squares, how many corner squares. And we've printed out the pieces that we're going to do the paper piecing. We need 24 of this striped square, and we need 12 of this corner square. Now, the squares that we're actually doing, each individual square is 9.5 by 9.5. That's before it gets sewn together. So it'll be a 9-inch square after it is in the quilt. But our paper is only 8.5 wide. What I've done is I've just printed it out on regular typing paper. You can buy paper piecing paper that's a little bit thinner, and so when it comes to tearing off the pieces after the squares are all sewn together and the whole top is sewn together, it's easier to tear off the paper. But what I've done is I've just done it out of typing paper, and that's perfectly fine to do that. But it's only 8.5 wide, 8.5 by 11. So what we have to do is we have to piece the paper piecing. This will go like this, but you'll notice there's a little bit of area where the printer gave room for the printer to work its magic. Where you'll be cutting along the line is the dotted line. The heavy lines are what you're going to be sewing on. So in sewing the squares together here and sewing the paper piece, the materials on the paper piecing so that you have the decoration. So what we're going to do is we're going to trim up this paper and tape it together, and you'll see what the squares are going to look like. I'm going to take this piece, I'm going to cut it exactly along at the very ends of these dots. I'm going to line it up right here. There's a little dotted line that says where to line it up at. Line it up here, and then I'm just going to tape it down. And the most important thing is that you want the lines to line up well. So we're going to do it there, going to do it there, and now I'm going to trim it up along these dotted lines. Okay, now, the striped square is actually made in two parts. We'll do the larger part first and the smaller stripe second, and then after they're pieced together, then what we're going to do is sew them together to make the block. But we initially do them separately, so we need to cut them also. And you'll see there's dotted lines where to cut. We have this ready to go, ready to sew our fabric on. We will need 24 of these. Can't use the same paper over and over again because we're going to be tearing it, sewing on it and tearing it. You need 20 to print out 24 of these, 24 of these. I'm going to do the same thing for the triangle because it also is 9.5 inches. And the same thing, I'm primarily interested in the paper just staying still when I'm trying to sew on it. But I really do have to have it lined up correctly. So let's line this up, line this up. There we go. Okay, we will have 12 of this piece because there are 12 of these squares. We will have 24 of each of these because there are 24 of the striped squares. Get them all cut out, taped together, and we'll be ready to go.